Welcome to the Pet Loss Companion. I'm Ken Dolan-Del Vecchio. I'm here with my friend and co-author Nancy Saxton-Lopez. And this is a program that is an extension of the book that we wrote a few years back called The Pet Loss Companion, Healing Advice from Family Therapists who Lead Pet Loss Groups. And we're very excited to tell you that the Pet Loss Companion audiobook will soon be available on Apple Books, Spotify, and other platforms. We'll keep you posted on that when we have a release date, but it's coming soon. This is a program where most of the time what we do is we read letters from audience members who have sent us their stories, and that's what we're going to do today. And if you would like to send us your story, we would be happy to do the same, to read them on the program, to put them on our Substack with your pictures if you send them and our correspondence back to you, or respond to you. We will respond. One or both of us will respond in any case. So you can write to us even if you are not inclined to have us share your story. If you will allow us to share it, however, please let us know in your note whether it's okay to share. And if you read the description for the program, you'll see that there are ways to support us, and there are also some additional resources that we've listed. And one of the resources is a cost-free Zoom pet loss support meeting that I facilitate every month via Dakin Humane Society's generosity. And if you would like to join that, and that is on the second Tuesday of the month from 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, click the RSVP link, and it would be great to have you join us. People join from all over the world. It's always an interesting conversation, and there is no cost to you. And finally, we'd like you to know that if you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing, because that alerts the algorithm to give the program more prominence when people are looking for pet loss support. And also when you leave a comment or you give a thumbs up or heart or any way that you interact with the YouTube platform on this program, it helps to get more people access to the program when they're looking for this kind of support. And finally, we'd like you to know that we have an affiliate relationship with a company called Bereave that makes really beautiful memorial plaques that are crafted out of granite, inscribed as you can see, and they are something that you might put in a memorial garden or at a gravesite or at a place inside where you keep mementos of your beloved animal companion. And if you purchase the plaque through the link in our description, we will get a little bit of a gift back from your purchases as well. And Nancy, want to get us started for today?
So we have two stories tonight. One I'm going to read is Nicole with her Luna, and Ken's going to read Kaitlin's with her Belle. And again, they're wonderful stories. We all know that if you write these stories, it's very cathartic. And if you hear them online, it's also very cathartic. So this is Nicole's story. Hi, Nancy and Ken. I first want to thank you for the work you do. You helped me tremendously through the death of my soul cat, Callie. You read my letter on podcast 135. At that time, I was reeling from losing my beloved Callie to cancer at the same time that my new dog, Luna, had an almost fatal bout of autoimmune-triggered meningitis. Unfortunately, Luna and I only got 2 more years together before she died on July 6th. I'd like to tell you her story, and please feel free to share. Luna came into my life just before Christmas of 2022. I'd moved into my first house in November of that year and had finally accomplished the last checkbox on my list to get a dog, a backyard. I grew up with boxers, and as I looked for a dog, I hoped to adopt one, but tried to keep an open mind. Lo and behold, I see a boxer named Luna pop up at my local animal shelter. I was at their door the next day when they opened. Luna was distracted when I met her, busy investigating the surroundings of the yard. But when she came up to me, she placed her head in my hands, and I knew that she had to come home with me. The first thing when I got home was sign her up for pet insurance. I guessed that she was backyard bred, and since even the best bred boxers are cancer factories, I wanted to make sure she was covered. Little did I know how important that decision was. Luna's integration into my life was a rough one. She had severe separation anxiety that no one knew about, resulting in her panicking to a degree I've never seen. We struggled for months, and eventually only medication and a heavily regimented routine was able to control it. She was incredibly reactive to other dogs, often literally screaming at them from across the street in frustration. Then 2 months after I got her, I got another curveball. I woke to find her having a seizure in her crate. She was diagnosed with idiopathic epilepsy, how well I know, but luckily the first medication tried worked great for her. Over the next few months, we resolved her other issues, or at least found a balance, and I thought we were through the worst. Then came September 2023, as I dealt with my cat in palliative care for colon cancer. I found Luna stuck in focal seizures. We rushed to the vet thinking I might lose her too. Eventually, she was able to be stabilized and sent to a neurologist where she was diagnosed with an autoimmune form of meningitis. She luckily responded to steroids, and after 5 days at the hospital was sent home the same day my beloved Callie died. She recovered, but it wasn't the end of our struggles. She required regular infusions to dampen her immune system, but she was never able to taper off the steroids. Her new seizure medication plus the steroids turned her into a food gremlin. I soon had to barricade the pantry and put the trash can behind closed doors to prevent her from going through them. Still, we adjusted and had happy times together, many walks and countless cuddle sessions. She was a pain, but she still was my silly girl, and I loved her deeply, even though I didn't think she understood me the way that Callie had. While 2024 lacked any major medical events, we still had our struggles. Every time I thought we had everything figured out, she threw me another curveball, multiple medication changes to try to control her seizures, and new behaviors I had to work around, including a new habit of eating her own poop. Oh my God, I know. The neurologist noticed concerning liver values. This was typical of phenobarbital use, but despite adding other medications and supplements, we were never able to lower her dose. This was the first time I realized that Luna may not be with me for much longer, but I tried to keep the thought out of my head. By the beginning of this year, I could see how the medications were affecting her. She had gained a lot of weight and was losing so much fur, but she was still my happy girl, so we trudged on. Then in April, she vomited and came down ill. I brought her to the ER to find that she had aspiration pneumonia caused by eating a spatula head and the resulting vomiting she did to try to expel it. By the way, it wasn't even my spatula. Its origin is a mystery, but that's a story for another time. But after an incredibly expensive vet stay that included antibiotics and endoscopy, Luna was home and recovered good as new. Unfortunately, I now see that this was the beginning of the end. A month later, she broke into the room that held her food and gorged herself until she vomited. By the next day, I had to take her to the vet and found she had aspiration pneumonia again. Luckily, this time it was a shorter hospital stay, and she recovered again with antibiotics. We got another blow when we went to our vet 2 weeks later to check and see if the pneumonia cleared. It had, but the vet noted that she had gone blind in her left eye and was having coordination issues. I was ashamed I hadn't noticed. Luna had always been pretty clumsy. I was working with a neurologist to see if we could get her in for an exam, but that appointment never came to pass. On July 5th, I woke up and started my day like normal. I noticed Luna was very tired, but that was to be expected. I had to sedate her at night before, due to the fireworks, and she was always super tired after that dose of medication. I went for a hike with a friend and came back to find her sleeping in the same spot I had left. She hadn't eaten the food puzzle I always left for her. I moved her to the couch, and she slept there with me the rest of the day. I knew she was sick again, but I was in denial. I lay there with her the whole evening. In the morning, I woke to find her moving again, but as I ate my breakfast, I saw that her breathing was labored. We went back to the ER. They knew her so well there that I joked we should have a stamp card as we walked in. This time the staff could see we were in trouble. They took her back right away. When I finally saw the vet, the news was so much worse than I had imagined. Not only did she have aspiration pneumonia again, but a whole list of other ailments, signs of recurrent meningitis, gas bloat, progressive hepatopathy, and signs of sepsis. I asked her what was the likelihood that Luna would get sick again, considering she had 3 bouts of pneumonia in as many months. She told me Luna was basically guaranteed to get sick again, even if they treated her, and likely very soon. Then the vet looked at me in the eyes and told me something I'd never heard before. It's okay to stop. She explained that I had done more than just about any owner could or would ever do for their pet. When I agreed we should stop, she emphatically told me I was doing the right thing. As they prepared the next steps, I wanted to scream at them to stop, that I made a mistake and we should try treatment. But I never uttered a word. I knew Luna was suffering and would continue to suffer. I kept trying. She hated the vet. She would wail when she was hospitalized to the point of needing heavy sedation. Plus, even if they had treated her, it would have maxed out her pet insurance for the year. The next time she got sick, I would have to make the decisions because of finances, and I couldn't let it come to that. I wept and took the pain for her as I held her while the vet put her to sleep. The next days were filled with sorrow. I alternated between wailing with my grief and maniacal, how do you say that, Ken? Thank you, cleaning every surface of my house. I couldn't stand the reminders of her, but I couldn't escape the mark she made on my heart. I spent hours poring over her test results from that day and Googled every single one trying to find the magic number to tell me under every circumstance that I did the right thing. I feel so guilty that I didn't keep fighting for her, trying to convince myself that if I had taken her to the vet the night before, she might have made it, but it didn't change the fact that she would have just kept getting sick all over again. The vet was right. I did everything I could, and so much more than anyone would have been willing or able to do. Even after pet insurance, I spent over $10,000 on her care in the 2.5 years I had her, and I molded my life to fit her every need. So many of my friends and family thought I was a bit crazy for standing by her, but I couldn't give up on my darling girl. I knew I was doing too much, but I could never identify at what point I was supposed to stop fighting. I alternate now between being at peace with her passing and regretting everything I ever did that led me to losing my little girl. When she was alive, I thought I would at least feel relief when she died because of how much time and energy I spent caring and worrying for her, but I only feel emptiness. The grief feels so much worse this time because this time I grieve in an empty house. I wasn't the perfect owner. Sometimes I yelled in frustration at her constant anxious pacing that I couldn't stop no matter what I did for her. I sometimes got annoyed when she'd follow me so closely her snout was touching me, her signature move when her anxiety was up. But I never turned down a chance to cuddle. I spared no expense in trying to keep her healthy. And most importantly, I loved her so much and so loudly that everyone knew how devastated I would be the minute I had to utter the words, Luna died. I still imagine her around the house, hear the big sigh she would make after settling down in the perfect spot, preferably right next to me on the couch. I imagine her walking with me as I trudge out into the world and try to resume living my life. I may have gained freedom, but I've lost my best friend, and it seems like a poor exchange. I know from the grief I experienced with Callie that things will soften over time. I still tear up when I think of Callie, but I mostly think of the wonderful times we shared. I know I'll get to that point with Luna too, but it'll be a painful period of time until I get there. I know one day, probably sooner than later, I will get another dog. My heart is too empty without one. I admit I'll be more careful when I select one, hoping to find a companion that fits a little easier into my lifestyle. But they'll never love me exactly the way my Luna did, and I'll never forget her. Thanks again to both of you for all your work. Ken, I attended your pet grief session right after her death, and it was soothing seeing other people going through what I am. Here's hoping we all find peace. That was so amazing in the context of how she took care of that little girl, big girl, right?
Yeah, and I have to say I was so impressed with the way that spoke to her. Mm-hmm. When she looked her in the eye and said, it's okay to stop. And then she's emphatically told me I was doing the right thing. I wish more veterinarians would be that direct and clear with their clients, because it's such a hard decision. And in this case, she had been through so many treatments and crises, and so she was always poised to do more. And the vet was able to lend her expertise and say, this is probably the point at which you want to let her go, because there are so many things wrong, and she's not going to get better. And yet I think the vet understood that Nicole was poised to just keep going, because that's the way she operated. And so I think it was a gift to both Nicole and Luna that she was going to be eased out of her suffering at this point. And like that vet said, I mean, nobody could do more for there. No. And I also just really appreciate that she talked about how hard it was sometimes.
Yeah, of course
the pacing and how anxiety, how at a certain point when a dog does that, you want them to stop. And when she's constantly nosing you, one of my dogs does that too. Yeah. And when I tell her to sit or to stop, I always feel a little guilty, because I know that it's just about connection. Like she wants to be connected, but I always feel her nose on my leg.
Well, no, Boogie does the same thing. And all of a sudden I feel that nose on my leg.
And I feel like I'm getting slimed by this little nose. And then I'll say, Hildy, sit. She'll sit. But they want
to be with you. They want to feel you.
Yeah, and so I'm glad she said that, because it's such a common experience. And then we feel guilty that
that's right.
We just couldn't. We just had a point at which we're like, I can't have your nose on me all the time.
It's hard, because they want to connect, but it's when they're underfoot like that all the time, you're so afraid you're gonna. I mean, Hildy's a little bigger, but my little ones, you might step, especially on Petty's foot, because she can't feel it, right? So I know, but Nicole's story was, amazing, and it's beautiful. I can resonate with that.
Yeah, and she knows that it'll take some time, and that as she said, her grief will soften. So she has wisdom from other losses. That will serve her well. And as she said, she will bring another dog or cat into her life, but she'll probably be looking for one who is less ill, less chronically ill than what she did. But boy, did she try with Luna. I mean, she gave her everything she could possibly give her.
Parrot.
Yeah,
best pet parrot.
Yeah. So now we're going to move on to Kaitlin, who writes about Belle. Dear Ken and Nancy, I found your podcast shortly after the sudden loss of my 7-year-old toy poodle named Belle. Your voices and advice have been so comforting, and it's been so helpful to hear other people's stories of love and loss with their dear pets. Thank you for the work you do and for creating this space. I'd love to tell you about Belle, and please feel free to share her story. My husband, Justin, and I got Belle as a puppy back in March 2018. I'm just going to pause to put up a picture of Belle. She's a really cute little dog.
Yes, such a sweet little girl.
Just a little over 2 years after we got married, Belle's little personality shone through from the first day we met her. She was such a happy dog. Another picture. Had extremely expressive eyes to where you could almost know her every mood. Loved to be silly and play, but she was so good at reading the room and would snuggle with you or relax alongside you if you needed some quiet downtime. At the time we got Belle, I had been recently accepted into a doctoral program in Michigan, and my husband had accepted a job in Illinois. This meant we would have to live apart for about 4 years. We decided Belle would live with me, and my husband and I would drive to see each other on the weekends. Belle was the best road trip partner. She loved sticking her little snoot out the passenger window and resting her little chin on the top of her basket behind the driver's seat. She got me through those difficult days of graduate school, always snuggling up beside me on the couch when I was up late writing papers and keeping me company and feeling safe when I missed my husband. In the middle of the COVID-19 lockdown, Belle was diagnosed with inflammatory bowel disease, or IBD. But with the right food, she was able to make a full recovery and stayed extremely happy and healthy for years afterward. By May 2022, my husband and I both got jobs in Chicago, and we were all living together again. But by October of that year, I was diagnosed with an aggressive form of lymphoma and learned I would have to undergo intensive chemotherapy treatment. Belle was the best dog during that time. She rested with me, would accompany me on walks, and was patient even when I couldn't walk as fast as usual, and made that difficult time so much more bearable. I was worried she might not recognize me or be suspicious of me when I lost my hair, but she didn't seem to notice my baldness at all. She stayed the loving, happy girl I knew and always gave me some licks on my bald head before going to sleep. Miraculously, at the end of 2024, we learned that I was pregnant with a little girl. We were so excited for Belle to meet her. We let Belle smell the car seat and even put her in the mini crib and stroller we bought for our baby. I think there's a picture of that. Let's see. Here it is.
So nice. Oh, look at that. So cute. Oh.
We constantly talked about how our daughter would remember Belle as her first pet and envisioned Belle accompanying us on all our walks to and from daycare and the park. We would laugh thinking of Belle being jealous that she wasn't the only girl in our lives anymore. We commented that she'd probably steal our daughter's socks and confuse our daughter's toys for her own. On June 25th, 2025, Belle suddenly started refusing food. We took her into the emergency vet and they prescribed prednisone, thinking it may just be a small IBD flare-up. But over the next few days, I noticed Belle getting more and more lethargic, and her gums and tongue looked a lot lighter than usual. We rushed her back to the emergency vet, and after doing some blood work, they let us know she had immune-mediated hemolytic anemia, IMHA, an autoimmune disease where red blood cells attack themselves. They sent us to a specialty hospital where Belle received a blood transfusion. The doctors were hopeful as her red blood cell count seemed to go up and stay stable after the transfusion. They said we just needed to keep her in the hospital a few more days to get her gut inflammation down so that she could eat again. I visited her in the hospital each night she was there, and she looked so sick and exhausted. I was yearning to see my bright, happy girl again. About 30 minutes after getting home from visiting her one night, the hospital called and told me Belle had was suddenly going into multi-organ failure. Her kidneys were failing, she had fluid around her lungs, and her GI tract had completely stopped working. They suspected she may have had a blood clot and told me it would be time to say goodbye the next day. My husband and I picked up Belle from the hospital to have one final day at home with our girl. She was so weak and couldn't walk, so we put her in the bassinet stroller we bought for our daughter and took her on one last walk around her favorite spots around Lincoln Park. We went to our favorite lookout point and asked a stranger to take a final family photo of the three of us. We spent hours with her at home, placing her in all her favorite spots: the bed in our primary bedroom, the rounded corner of the upstairs couch, her comfy dog bed with her favorite toys, the corner of the basement couch. I even used Amazon's one-day shipping to get a clay molding and ink pads for her paws and a tiny glass jar to put some of her fur in. We drove her back to the hospital, letting her rest her little snoot out the window one last time. We brought Belle into her room, turned down the lights, and laid her across our laps. She suddenly lifted her head up, locked eyes with me for a few moments, then laid her head into the palm of my right hand. This was the position I held her in as she took her last breath. The vet scooped up her tiny limp body, and then she was gone. I keep replaying our last day with her, as well as those very last traumatic moments, over and over in my mind. It feels like my heart is breaking over and over again. It's been about 3 weeks since her death, and the grief has been more overwhelming than I ever thought possible. I was planning on having at least 7 more years with our girl, and it feels like our time together was unfairly cut short. Some folks comment on her death and say how great it is that I'll be welcoming a new baby soon, but I don't view it that way. Caring for a baby is going to be extremely difficult, and I was planning on doing that with my best pet companion, who has been by my side and has given me unconditional love through the hardest moments of my life. I don't want to raise my daughter without Belle, and I don't want to transition to parenthood without her either. I made a shadow box for Belle that I placed in my office. I bought a digital photo frame that cycles through videos and pictures of her on my kitchen counter, and I made a little memory box for her. But despite these rituals, my heart has remained broken, and I feel devastated every day that she's not with us. I keep hoping that the pain will lessen or that the crying spells will come on with less intensity, but I haven't gotten there quite yet. Thank you again for the work you do and for validating the immense love, yearning, and grief that we go through when losing our best little companions, who bring so much light and unconditional love to our world. All the best to you both. Kaitlin.
Oh my goodness.
Really,
It's
really
so
rough.
sad, right?
Really rough, yeah.
Because she really, Belle was her rock.
Yep.
And now that Belle's not there, I mean, we know people mean well, but sometimes they just don't really say the right things, right? She was looking forward to having her daughter, but having Belle be her rock for her emotionally through all that, right?
Yeah.
Through her birth and having her daughter come home, and they all could be together. And it's so incredibly sad that Belle was not going to be able to do that now, right?
And it's something the way you just never know how much time
Right.
any of us has, our animal companions, ourselves, because here she was quite reasonably expecting her to live for many more years,
Yeah.
and that was not to be. She got very sick, and they did everything they could, but she couldn't be saved. And it's just a cautionary tale about how short and unpredictable life can be. And they gave her a brilliant life, and they loved her tremendously, but fate had other plans, and it's just not something that we have control over.
No, and people can get, I've worked with many, people that get very angry about that, especially when they have expected, a longer life, right? And it was not to be. And
Yeah, and
it's hard.
and you see them get angry at the veterinarian.
Yes, I do.
And one of the things you have to keep in mind is that veterinarians usually try their hardest, are very competent. And when we get angry in our grief, we're angry at the circumstances. We're
Yes.
angry at fate. And it's really important that we're not directing that at.
Well, people need something to blame, right? Or
Yeah,
someone
sometimes
to
some
blame.
people do.
Yeah,
Some people do.
I was great though that they could at least take her home and have
Yep.
a day with her, because
Yep.
a lot of times people can't do
Yep.
that. Pet parents
Yep.
can't do that, and
Yep.
so they did take her to places and cuddled her and then
And sh-
took her back to the vet.
Yeah, she's doing all of these rituals that,
Yeah.
though they're not making a big difference now, they probably will be helpful as she moves along. And so they're really smart things that she's
To
been
do.
doing. And you can tell that she and her husband really love this
Oh,
little dog.
absolutely.
And so our hearts go out
yeah.
to
Both
Kaitlin,
Nicole and
to
Kaitlin.
Nicole, others who are involved in these beautiful little animals' lives, and we'll look forward to sharing more stories next time. And we'll once again just ask, if you find this program helpful, please do give a thumbs up or subscribe if you haven't, or write a comment. All of those are helpful in terms of getting the program in front of other people who may benefit.
And thank you, Kaitlin, and thank you, Nicole. Those
Yep.
were they're hard stories. They're lovely and heartwarming, but they're also very heartbreaking.
They
And
are
our
indeed.
our thoughts and wishes and thoughts and feelings are with you.
Yep. Yep.
So